Hey guys, so does the story even matter? Have you seen books and comic books and stories about heroes or some kind of character where there's no story, there's just the main character and that's it? And it's just following the main character and seeing what they do? Or maybe it's just like some hero or something or whatever, and the story just isn't there. Like there's no story at all, but it's just like maybe pictures of a character in a story. This is called Druna, and this is okay. This is Druna, right? And this is a comic book where basically it's all about the main character, which is this girl here. And there really is no story in it. However, this is a great book. Personally, I buy books for the art. I really buy comic books for the art. I like reading a good comic book where the story is good and the art is good, but if it's just the art that's good, I like buying that comic book because I'll look at the art and even like, if the story's not there, I don't really care because it's the art that I like. That's why I have a comic book. If I want to read a story, I'll read a book. So I like the Druna thing, and Druna's been around for years. I don't know, like a while, Druna's been around. And, oh man. And when these came out, this was really, really amazing. And it's just like, I can't show any of this because it's just too much nudity, but it was, it's just like stories, it's basically like, it's the story of this main character in this world, and one thing happens and the next thing happens and one person says this and another person says this, and it's like the story just doesn't make any sense. It goes nowhere. It's not interesting. It's just, but following the pictures of this girl is what is like the whole point of the story. It's Druna and she's the main character. And she walks around and stuff, and basically she walks around the whole thing with no clothes on. And that's like the whole story. So this is the other one, another hardcover Druna book, and this is the other one. This is number 3. That was number 4. And I just like it. I like it for the art. I can't show too much of it. I'll show something that's not too revealing, but yeah, it's just like, she basically walks around naked the whole way, and it doesn't have any more story. Okay, it's like that. And it doesn't really have any story to it. The whole book, it's like, it doesn't have any story. But you know what? The art is really good. And it's not that like there's no, it's like the art tells its own story, sort of. It's got like, it's really well drawn. It's not just even the girl, it's like all of the stuff in here. It is the girl. I mean, that's why you get this, because this is Ser Pieri. Ser Pieri is the artist for this, and he draws her really, really good. And basically, it's really, really well drawn, but it's also a lot of nudity, and, he draws her really, really good looking, and she's just like going through this world and another world, and she doesn't know if she's awake, if she doesn't know if she's asleep, and like she doesn't know like if she's in another place, if she's inside a machine, or if she's like in the Matrix. Like she doesn't know where she is, what's going on. Everything is weird, and like things are always after her and stuff like that, and sometimes there's like robots there and stuff like that, and like here, like she's some kind of weird king guy. And the thing is, the story just comes and goes. They're drawn really well. And not just the girl, but all of the comics are drawn really, really well. But it's about, it's drawn really well. It's actually really good art. But it's just about her walking around with no clothes on and not knowing where she is, and she's lost and she's trying to find her way around. And it's got no story in it. Like, there's no story in it at all. And I find that that's the case. Like, a lot of people will read stories, whether it's a comic book or whatever, even if there's like no story in it, because they like the character or they like something about it. Like with comic books, it's like, if you like the art, if they have good art in the comic, that's like enough. It would be great if it had an art and a great story, it would become like a great comic book. Like this would, but this will never be mainstream because it's just too adult, you know, like, but the thing is that, you know, even there's other stories that are like that, and there's other comics that are like that, just specifically comics, because, you know, novels can't get away with that. It's all story, it's all written down. But with comics, it's like drawings and pictures, and you could kind of follow it without the story getting in the way, you know? You could follow it without actually reading any of it. You're flipping through the pages, oh, that's a nice picture, that's a cool picture, that's a cool picture, you know? It's the same thing with a lot of things. Maybe they started off having a story, but they stopped, like Conan. Conan the Barbarian in the comic book form has like no story. It's just about Conan, and he's always like killing monsters, killing other, you know, medieval soldiers. They're after him. There's wizards, and there's on a horse, and he's riding from place to place. And you know, it's just like it just goes on and on. It's just never. There's no plot, and the plots are like really, really weak. You know, oh, there's some guy who steals something, and then he's got to come after him, and that's not a plot. That's like a used plot. That's already like a plot that's already been used a lot, like a rehashed plot. It's not really a plot. You know, same thing with other like Red Sonja doesn't have a story. It's just her. It's just the same as Conan, but she's like a female Conan. And also no story. They try to put characters in there. They try to make some kind of plot in there, but that's not what it is. And like month after month, these new issues come out, and it's interesting to read them for a while. But then like after a while, you just stop buying it because there's just lack of interesting story. You can't follow it anymore because, you know, the Conan, like, it's just so much, you know, of the same Conan comic book, the same story, the same plot as you can take. And I noticed this, you know, a lot with any kind of like superhero. It's like the same plot. Conan, Red Sonja. I haven't read a lot of Vampirella, but the impression I'm getting is also it's like that too. People follow Vampirella comics because she's Vampirella and they like how she's drawn. And the same thing with Conan. Now I understand like Conan has a huge following and stuff, and I like Conan, but I just feel like I want to like the new Conans that are coming out. But I feel like I like Conan, but I feel like I've read all of it. Even though new Conans are coming out, it's just the old stories being rewritten the same way. I like Conan, but I feel like I've read all of it already. You know, even though there's new Conans coming out. You know, like after a point, you gotta admit that even if you like these characters, it's just like they stopped making new plots for them, which is so weird because, you know, why? How? You know, these are great characters, but there's no plot. Like, for example, so I bought these Drunas, right? And these are cool. These are hardcover. The art is great. I bought these because Druna used to be in Heavy Metal Magazine, and I used to like her drawings there, and Serpieri was drawing these in the 80s, and this was really, really great. But the thing is, I don't remember how much this was. This was like $20, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll take it. And I liked reading it, but I'll tell you honestly, I didn't finish reading it. I can't finish reading it. I already read two and a half of these. This one doesn't have, like, this one here has like no writing at all. This is all art. This is all art. It's all stories, which is cool because I think that Druna, these kinds of comics are all art. That's their strength, is their art. I can show these are so adult, but it's like, it's basically art. I mean, it's all art and stuff like that. I'll show some of it. But it's all art, and that's the thing with Druna, is that it's all art. So I didn't mind that there was no writing, but after reading, I think one of these, like the third one, and then I got the fourth one, it is hard to read this. You know, it's just that it's hard to read it because when you're reading a book, whether it's a comic book or a novel, the story keeps you going, keeps the pages turning, and it can't be that hard to write a story. There's a lot of good writers out there, that are just waiting to be hired on something like Druna, especially like writers that like Druna or love Druna or maybe grew up with Druna. You know, when they were younger, they would read Druna and they became writers. And there's Druna fans who are writers, you know, who would love to write for Druna, but I don't know why they don't. I don't know who writes this. I don't know if Serpieri writes this. You know, much respect to Serpieri. I love the character and everything, but the stories just goes nowhere. And it's the story that makes me like, I want to look at the pictures and I want to flip the pages, but if I have to read more of the same story where she doesn't know where she is and she's like, you know, she doesn't know if she's awake or asleep or who these people are or why the robot doesn't look like a monster or she's on some boat and then this happens. It just, there's no story. It's just like Druna, the main character, running around with no clothes on in this situation and that situation and the other situation. And it's fun at first. And it's, you know, the art is good, so you buy it, and then it's just like, you can't read it, you know, really, you can't read it, you know, and there's a lot with that, and I find that I like Conan, but I can't read the comics because it's repetitive. There's no new stories. It's not that hard to make a new story. It's really not that hard. There are so many people who love Conan lovers, you know, anyone who likes Conan, write a Conan story, you know, because they really need it. Write a Conan story and like email it or mail it to the guys that make Conan. Just write a story for Conan and let them use that story, because there are so many people who like Conan and are Conan fans who are writers, definitely, that are Red Sonja fans who are writers, you know, that are like Vampirella, but they were kind of the same character, like Vampirella, you know, Red Sonja. Who's the other one? Deja Thoris. You know, Princess of Mars, that, you know, they're like crossovers in the same comic book. So, you know, these, now I haven't read a lot of Deja Thoris, so I can't say anything about Deja Thoris. I haven't read a lot of, Vampirella because I don't think there's a lot of Vampirella available. I would have loved to read about some Vampirella, but I did read, I mean, I did flip through some Vampirella, but I did read some, but I did like, as, you know, when I was young, as a kid, I would read Conan and I would like the stories and I would like the character and I would like the medieval whole fantasy genre and stuff like that. And I also would like it if there were new stories being told with it. You could make a new story, you know, but honestly, the writers have just not written anything new. However, it doesn't actually make I don't know, I think it makes like, the fans still buy the stories. The fans still buy the comics. I mean, there's so many, like every week you'll see new Conans, and every month you'll see new Conans on the shelf. And you'll see like shelves of Conan. And the people keep buying them. You know, people keep buying Conans and reading them. And I think that, you know, either the people that do get into that are like people that just love Conan and they don't care what the story is. They like the character, they enjoy reading it, they like the world, and that's like the only thing you can actually like about these things is the character, the world. But there's only so much the character and the world can do, especially like to new people, because when you get into, when you've never read a Conan before and then you get into it, you know, you can read like, you know, you could read a few trade paperbacks, but then you notice the repetitive nature of the story. And what's weird is that, you know, if the writers can't think of a new story, why don't they just like consult with other writers? You know, like just have a call for like, hey, does anybody have a good idea for another? They can write it, but just, you know, give them an idea of what to write. You know, I'm sure the writers write well, but it's just nothing new, you know? And so what happens is Conan, Druna, you know, Red Sonja, all of these things come out and you just, you know, you're just like let down a little bit because you really want to enjoy, it says like, oh, it's a new Conan coming out. Like, you really want to enjoy the comic, you really want to enjoy the story, and you really want to like it. And, and then you read it, and there's like no plot. It's like the same thing. Red Sonja, so, you know, She goes into a bar, someone tries to attack her, she beats him up. She gets on a horse, rides around. You know, there's a bird that attacks from the sky. She beats him up. You know, like it's not like, yeah. It's like, and the thing is, it really lets the fans down because, like, you know, the fans want a new story. They want a good story, and they're even sticking with it, even though the stories are old. They're still sticking with it because they like the character, they like the world. You know, they like the whole thing, the story behind it. But you know, but you're really like, you know, they're really like letting the fans down by not putting creativity inside their stories. You know, by not thinking of new stories, by not thinking of what's the next thing, what's a good idea to make this comic about. You know, the artists are there, the drawings are good, you got the artists, you know, the writers can write, but now you just got to get the idea people. You know, some people that sit down and go, let's do this, let's have Druna go on this adventure, and then this happens and that happens, and it's compelling and it's interesting, and it's not like the same thing over and over again. So I don't know, man. So anyway, I really hope they write good stories for their comics. I know comics is about the art, but there's also a story component in there. It's sequential art. It's not just art, it's also a story. So yeah, so you know, like, someone's got to give them some ideas to put in these books. You know, it would be awesome. So let me know what you guys think. Please like and subscribe to my videos and share it if you want. And I will see you guys in another video, and take care.